I'd like to welcome in host of Daniel Davis Deep Dive on YouTube, retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis. Colonel, great to see you as always. We know this is a very tense situation. Reportedly, over 500 people killed, 10,000 arrests, 10,000 plus arrests. That's in just 2 weeks. Protests there are now the biggest since 2020. We heard what President Trump, some of what he has said there during Kelly's report, saying Iran is starting to cross a red line. What do you think military options look like here? As the president has said, he has options.
Well, listen, I mean, even before you get to the options, you should be getting to what do you want to accomplish here? What is the attainable military objectives? I know people are probably tired of hearing say that, but that should be absolutely the non-negotiable step one. Don't talk about using military power unless you know where you're going to go with it and what it's going to accomplish. And if this is just about protest in Iran, there is no legitimate legal basis for any other foreign country to go in and say, I'm going to start killing more people inside of Iran if they, don't stop killing their own people. I mean, that kind of is an odd situation itself, but the president needs to lay out, here's the legality of it, here's the American national interest of it, and here's why we're risking the Iranians actually making good on that threat to retaliate against our troops in the region. And that's what I think we need to focus on a lot here. There's no question we can go in and strike almost anything we want to in Iran. We have all kinds of missile capability. We have strategic aircraft. We can do a lot of damage and blow up a lot of stuff, but towards what end? Just to make them stop protesting or something different? And what if they make good on that threat to retaliate? And now all of a sudden you could get America drawn into a war overnight. And that is a huge risk that is not supported by what's being placed before us here.
And I know you always like to look at things from many different angles here. So there are also sources saying military strikes could backfire and undermine the protests, as you mentioned there, but with the concern that the strikes could have a rallying effect for the people to support the Iranian government, or as you mentioned, for Iran to retaliate with military actions of its own. Do you think either of those scenarios are a real possibility?
100%. There's no question about that both are theoretically possible. And we are physically seeing it play out in the last 2 days, because a lot of these protests started, as your correspondent said a second ago, over some economic issues within the country. There's also some evidence that there were external players, whether that be Mossad, CIA, MI6, or some Kurds that are reported by Asian media that entered into Iran to try and help foment some of this stuff. Allegedly, Turkey gave information to Iran that actually knocked them out and interdicted many of them. So a lot of pieces playing around. But the last couple of days, there have been more pro-Ukrainian, pro-Iranian protests than there have been anti-regime protests. So that is already starting to happen. And many people on the streets in Tehran, according to reports today, are saying, hey, whatever's going on here, this is our own internal issue here. And we don't want another country coming in and bombing somebody because they want to have the situation improved and corrected. They don't, certainly many in the West, and definitely Israel, want to have a regime change. I don't think that's what most of the people in Iran want. They just want improved economic conditions, and some other country coming in to kill their regime, I don't think that's going to help us out.
All right, so there are a lot of people getting nervous here because, top Iranian officials saying, the U.S. military would be a legitimate target if the U.S. does strike Iran. President Trump, though, was saying if Iran acts in any way, that the country would then pay an even steeper price. Regardless of all of the threats back and forth, some experts are saying it's only a matter of time before we do see strikes against Iran. Do you think that's the case?
Unfortunately, I do. You see, Lindsey Graham has been just adamant on X and several other speeches that he's given just in the last 24 hours, saying that very thing. He said that prior to Maduro being taken out, you may recall, because he's obviously very close to President Trump. And he said that if Maduro stays any longer, with all of this power we have, it's going to be a bad thing. And now he's saying similar things about Iran, that they have to fall. We have to have a regime change. We have to bring in, a new regime, et cetera. And the fact that he's really close with the president could imply that either he's influencing Trump in that direction, or that he knows what Trump is thinking and he's pushing that direction as well. So I think we have to take that seriously. And I cannot tell you how I think it would be a bad situation for America. It would not accomplish the objective of getting regime change, and it could potentially spark a major war by getting our troops in the region attacked, and it is no good for our country.
So another piece of all of this, it's certainly unusual to see Iranian leadership reach out to President Trump to negotiate about nuclear deal talks. I'd like to listen to what Trump has said about negotiations.
Iran wants to negotiate, yes. We may meet with them. I mean, a meeting is being set up, but we may have to act because of what's happening before the meeting. But a meeting is being set up. Iran called, they want to negotiate.
All right. So what is your reaction to what we just heard from the president there? If, that is what happened, do you think Iranian leaders are in some way signaling weakness by doing that?
Listen, I mean, I think that we're undermining our own ability to have negotiations, not just here, but at any time in the future. If people lose trust and confidence that the United States is negotiating anything in good faith, because it's not lost on the Iranians, I promise you that there were negotiations in process in June of last summer when we attacked their nuclear facilities. We already had meetings planned, I think, for like 3 days later, and then we attacked. Trump said, there's a couple of weeks we have for negotiations, and then we attack. So now he's openly saying, we'll talk, maybe we'll attack, who knows? Where is the motivation for the other side to engage in diplomacy that might end in something positive for our side if we're telling them ahead of time and with actions in the recent past that it may not do any good either and we may attack you anyway? That is not good for our side, and we've got to build credibility so that when we say we're going to negotiate something, the other side has reason to engage with us.
Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, thank you as always.
Thank you.